It's time to talk about all the very best comic books of the week. Now, last week was an anomaly. Shockingly, they just delivered so many good comic books for the last week of 2021. I don't think they were quite as successful, they being specifically DC and Marvel, here in the first week of 2022, but there are definitely some comic books worth talking about and recommending. And here with me to do that is my good friend Drew from Comics Elite. How you doing, Drew?
Doing well, Wes, and I concur. It was a step down from last week. The highest of highs. We had some of the lowest of lows this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about the lowest of lows tomorrow with Doc on our worst comics of the week. And I do want to say, if you stick around to the end, Drew will be talking about his next crowdfunding comic book that will be coming out next week, correct?
That is correct. You cannot wait to talk about it.
Absolutely. So we'll be hitting that at the end of the video. So let's hit the indie comics first, like we always do. Now, you talked about this comic book last week. I was like, I don't think this thing had come out because I hadn't read it. It was definitely on my list of comic books that I wanted to get to. So this week, I finally got to Apache Delivery Service #1, Matt Kitt, once again with Tyler and Hilary Jenkins on art. It's Tyler and Hilary Jenkins art with the Matt Kitt comic. If you've seen them before, it's not quite as refined, maybe as some people like, but the story itself is really, really good. As you mentioned last week, it's a man in Vietnam, and apparently, he feels more at home, out in the shit, doing his own thing and kind of doing some, putting bombs on targets. It looked like a combat controller, from my Air Force days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's the first thing I reminded. Yeah, remind me of a combat controller just 30 years ago, 40 years ago at this point.
Yeah, so I think it does a really good job of expressing a lot about the character, but not using a ton of words. It's a lot through actions and the way that he's presenting himself and the way that he's responding to things in there. There's certainly some interesting images that I think will play out later. And of course, the big mystery at the end is that there's some type of gold out there that they're going to go out and try to discover. So I definitely recommend Apache Delivery Service from Dark Horse Comics. Matt Kitt is one of my favorite writers. He always does great work with Tyler and Hilary Jenkins.
Absolutely. And yeah, I really enjoy the artwork in this because it's a great parallel to the type of story being told. It's a very nasty, graphic story, and the art is kind of like messy. Whereas you see the Vietnam environment, what's the story, type of story being told. It's messy, it's dirty, it's bloody. It fits the story. And not just gold, but there's also possibly a killer out there who's doing some horrific things. So, and Matt Kent isn't holding your hand with the story. He wants you to kind of pick it up, with not just his dialogue, but the art being shown. So I truly appreciate that.
Absolutely. And you're going with something we have not recommended this publisher here, at least with our Best of the Week segment, but you're going to Antarctic Press this week.
I'm going to Antarctic Press. Like we say on our channel, we read everything, and we read in Antarctic Press. And Kyle and I, we kept our expectations low for this because typically Antarctic Press, they're all right. But this was a two-parter, and what's great about this Horror Comics #8 is that when you read it, you think it's going to go one way if you've seen the first Blade film, but then it goes the completely other direction, which is terrific. And so this is a great American manga style horror action comic. And I generally hate manga, and I truly enjoyed this. So we get into Japanese vampires and sword fights. It's amazing. Bloody well done. Ben Dunn, David Furr, and Matthew Weldon, they did a terrific job with this. It's just a two-parter. It is terrific.
Absolutely. And Ben Dunn would be one of the co-owners of Antarctic Press. Matthew Weldon is doing the Soul Finder series with Doug Ernst, as well as the real Punchline, the one before the one at DC Comics. So you got some really good creators as far as the independent scene there. So definitely want to check out that one. Let's go over to Marvel Comics. They put out a lot of content this week, and I don't think that they delivered on much of it.
No, they didn't.
The one that I'm going to recommend comes with some caveats, but I do think Inferno #4 from Jonathan Hickman and Valeria Schiti is a pretty good comic book on its own merit. It's well delivered. It is kind of a letdown in the fact that we don't get the full Jonathan Hickman X-Men experience. You could tell this was wrapped up pretty fast, and not all the answers that you want are really given, and what they are, some of them are kind of half-baked, but it is a good comic book. It's a fitting end to Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. I do think it's emblematic of something that started out amazing and then by the end was just rushed, and they let him have an ending so he could kind of walk away. But it's a good comic book, and if you've been with the X-Men series from House of X Powers of 10, I think it's a must read.
Yeah, you know, there are things about it I did like, and there are a lot of things about it I did not like. That last page, I yelled out, "You gotta be effing kidding me!" so loud in the warehouse. I think our people next door heard us.
Are you talking about the to be continued forever?
Forever? Yes,
I'm with you.
That aggravated me beyond belief. But yeah, I did like the twists and turns in it, what they did with Moira. But the questions I had were like, so wait, the council's staying there forever? They really intentionally mean that? Literally? I don't know. But yeah, for the most part, it was good. I was really hoping for more of an actual fight between Nimrod and Magneto. I was really hoping for more of it. It was okay.
Well, that wasn't the main focal point of the story, so that we didn't get as much of that as you would have liked. You know, it was more. Yeah. It was a Moira, Destiny, Mystique story.
Yes,
in his heart. So
yes,
they definitely focus on that a bit more. So it's a frustrating read, but I do think it's worth your time here at the end. So let's go over to, this is a series I think has been kind of up and down. When it's been up, it's been really up. When it's been down, it's been just okay. And still worth reading. So Donny Cates once again delivering, this time on Thor. Love to see Nick Klein back on art. He's been back for a couple issues now.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you see, I agree. Thor has been up and down. It's like almost every other issue has been good. Every other issue has been bad. Or not, I would say bad, but like lesser quality. And this one, I would say for this one, 99.9% of this comic was a blast. Nick Klein's art in this is flipping on point. I thoroughly loved it. And, Mjolnir is, laying a path of destruction through all the realms. Loki's trying to hold everyone back from going after Thor. Thor and Odin having a great little father-son talk. It's great. And let's just say at the end of this issue, Thor is in for 7 realms of pain for what's getting ready to happen. But I'll say the only downside to this comic for me was the visualization of the God of Hammers. Because if you've read Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men, the character looks exactly like Danger. It just, when I saw her, I'm like, this looks very familiar to me. That was for me like the only downside to this comic. Other than that, it is on point. Loved it.
It definitely has felt like this God of Hammers story arc is going to be pretty impactful and high octane. And I like to see this. Donny Cates, he has a style. I think a lot of it kind of is fan service, and I do mean that in a good way. I don't mean that in a negative way. Yeah,
I agree. And like, if you're bringing in Captain Universe to King in Black, I'm like, that you're a fan. That's a deep pull.
Unfortunately, Marvel just it's been 2 kind of lackluster weeks in a row where there's a lot of quantity out there, not a lot of quality, but you stick to Inferno, Thor, maybe Amazing Spider-Man, and you're going to be feeling better about yourself this week.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, better to play it safe, with those.
Now let's get to DC. Now DC knocked it out of the park last week. They didn't do quite so excellent this week. Most everything that was really stand out were Batman related comic books. I kind of talked about it a little bit in my This Week at Batman, but I'll talk about it again here. Batman 119, Joshua Williamson, Jorge Molina, the first real appearance of Abyss. I thought it was a really exciting comic book. The interaction between Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne, I thought was really cool. And I don't know, just that art by Molina, especially when you first see Abyss for the first time, like almost haunting stuff, really good horror vibes.
Absolutely. That page, there are certain images that will stick with you. That first page when he appears behind Batman in the dark, great visualization. That was perfect. And, not just that, but the first appearance of Abyss, but the little tete-a-tete between Bruce Wayne and Lex, perfect. You had like arguably the best Lex has been written for a while compared to Tom Taylor's writing a Lex in Son of Superman. It's complete polar opposites of Lex Luthor. He was terrific in this. Loved it.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying the Joshua Williamson Batman so far. We don't know who's going to be the full-time Batman writer. Maybe if sales are good enough, Williamson will just stay on there, although it does feel like his plate is very, very full. He's got a lot of projects coming in there, and I think he's got even a couple more that have been announced that he hasn't even started yet.
Absolutely.
So if you like Batman and been waiting for for a good Batman take. I think it's safe to dip your toes back in the Batman waters now. We're 2 issues in, and it does feel like it's a good take.
Absolutely. And the only downside to this one issue is that there were a few artists working on this book. You had Michael Janin and then a few of the others. And it's like, I'm kind of concerned for the next part. I'm like, hopefully they're back to one artist, not several, but we'll see what happens.
We shall see. And then there's another series you want to talk about. You've been singing the praises of Suicide Squad for a while, and we got issue 11 this week.
Yeah, Suicide Squad, issue number 11 this week. But the best part of this series, overall to me, there's no Harley Quinn. It's perfect. It's readable. It's enjoyable. The Suicide Squad, they're going on one last mission for Waller, and the mission is not quite what you expect. And we also get a great fight between Bloodsport and Peacemaker, and Rick Flag and Amanda Waller. They're getting ready to make their final moves for an all-out war on one another. It's great. And the art by Eduardo Pansica and Julio Ferrara, it's terrific. I thoroughly enjoy this. And, Ambush Bug, Ambush Bug, I understand, his humor can be take it or leave it, but to me, he's the funny version of Deadpool. What he's doing, it's hilarious. I enjoy it. He's used the right amount, in my opinion.
What's interesting with Peacemaker is that it appears that character is very important to DC Comics moving forward. And there's a chance that maybe Peacemaker replaces Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad, permanently. They just leave her in the Batman universe. And
perfect. Let's do it.
Might not be the worst change of all times.
No, absolutely not. I am 100% on board with that. And I'm enjoying Peacemaker has been written so well this past year in, Swamp Thing, Suicide Squad. Yeah, it's great seeing this character brought back, who is completely unused for years.
Harley Quinn is still overexposed. Doc and I are going to talk about Harley Quinn Eat, Bang, Kill tour tomorrow in our worst of the week, because that comic sucked ass.
You guys have fun with that.
Oh, we won't. But so those are our recommendations this week. We've got on the Indie Seed, Apache Delivery Service, and Horror Comic number 8 from Antarctic Press. From Marvel, we got Inferno number 4, as well as Thor number 20, and at DC Comics, Batman 119 and Suicide Squad number 11. We talked about it earlier, but it's time to deliver it here, Drew. We know that you just had a very successful crowdfunding campaign with Born of Blood, and you're coming right back. And this time we've got Catfight versus Naughty and Nice. I'm not going to throw the pictures up quite yet, but I do want to say, if you have kids in the room or something, you might not appreciate them seeing these images, so you might want to just leave the video now. They'll be starting up in about 15 seconds.
Yeah, fair enough. This project was done in secret. Sean Hudachko, Marat Michaels, they're best friends. So Marat Michaels, if you don't know, he's the second person to ever draw Deadpool. He is a childhood friend of Rob Liefeld, creator of Brigaded Image Comics, and at his Counterpoint Entertainment, creator of Do You Poo, Naughty and Nice, Hardly Thin. They're parody books he does. They're terrific. And I have several pieces of his artwork on my wall as well. But they wanted to do a project together for the longest time. And then they decided to do a crossover one night when the three of us were just chatting. And they both looked at me and said, "You want to write it?" After I wrote Born of Blood. And of course, I was not going to say no. So, I mean, this issue, this one comic, this one shot is just a balls to the wall cat fight. One long cat fight is terrific. And they're breaking into Genghis Khan's summer home to get his snow leopard coat. It's going to be a lot of fun. Both parties want it for different reasons. Only one person's going to come away with it. Not going to say who. There is a winner. This was a lot of fun to write. And if you enjoy the fight scenes from the movie Die Hard and They Live, you'll enjoy this.
So sounds like we've got a three-way dance over Genghis Khan's coat. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. The art's going to be spectacular. Drew is writing his second appearance ever as a comic book writer. So congratulations to Drew. When can people expect this Kickstarter to launch?
We are expecting to launch this on Tuesday, the 8th, 9th, 10th, the 11th, I believe, on Tuesday the 11th. That is the expected launch date. And it should be a huge night. If this does half as well as my first issue, I'm going to be blown away.
The best of luck and congratulations on another comic book that's about to be funded. I imagine it's going to go very well. I do appreciate it, Drew. Do you have anything else to say before we wrap this bad boy up?
I want you guys to read more comics, guys. Have fun reading.
While DC Comics might not have set the world on fire this week with their comic book line, their Batman series were actually really good across the line. We reviewed 4 of them earlier in the week with my good friend Josh from BatmanNews.com. If you're interested in these reviews, are a little bit more in depth on Batman 119, Detective Comics, Dark Knights of Steel, and Arkham City. If you're wanting to read good comic books, I think you'll like this video.